And first of all, Ole, we need to talk later. You put me at the last on the agenda. Everybody started to be tired. And after Fredrik, which is an excellent presenter. So how should I dance? Should I sing? I don't know what to do to sort of keep you motivated. If I start singing at least, then it'll be completely empty in the room. So I stop that part at least. But let's give it a try. I will talk about the market situation, but I will try to avoid endless lists of numbers, because that's boring, so I will try to do it a little bit differently. Meaning I will be a little bit speculative. I will have some personal opinions, and let's see if that could be a little bit, well, I wouldn't say fun, but a bit fun towards the end of the day at least. I have to do some definitions, say something about megatrends, a little bit about raw materials, and some other things as well. Let's move on. Actually, I have been very busy stealing information from various sources. I've tried to name the sources, but maybe I have skipped some, but I've tried to be accurate on that. This is from Plastics Europe, where the main message here is two things. First of all, the plastics industry is very big in Europe. It's a big industry. So it's an important employer for very, very many people. And it's hard to think sort of how that situation could easily change in one way. It's an important industry. We have all these people in this room, and it's an important employer, and we would like to continue this way, but you do have to do it correctly. Only 4 to 6% of the oil and petrochemicals is used in the plastics. So the major fossil energy or fossil sources is used for other applications, energy for electricity or for transportation, of course. Some key figures is very important. I mean, specifically the importance for the workers of Europe. If you add on that many of the leaders in the plastics machinery production, like we have had a presentation from Engel, are also from Europe. They are not included in this figure. So it's a very important industry for Europe. This is where the polymers are produced. I said I will have some number, but not very many. I think there has been a kind of a general assumption that the polymer, the plastics, polyethylene, polypropylene, is produced in the Middle East. That's not true. They produce parts of it, but they're not the main producer. The main production is going on like you see on this map. They are one of the major exporters, but that's a different thing from being the major producer. End use, what should we say? I mean, it's a very fragmented end use of plastics. Maybe polymers and plastics actually are too cheap because they are thrown away. They end up as garbage. They're so good materials, so easily to form, so easily to designing, so easy to use in all kind of respect, but they're cheap, so they're thrown away, ending up as litter too often, which we have had many examples of today. But this is an example which shows very easily that it's used in most industries, most applications we know about. I don't know, but I'm partly proud of this scheme. Maybe I'm the only one, but I'm partly proud of it. If you see here on the left-hand side or on the full scheme here, that actually the recycling, both to energy and mechanical recycling, has grown significantly over the last years. And the landfill part has gone quite a lot down. Let me call it I'm optimistic by nature. It is possible to think that the future is there for plastics as well. Of course, I say sometimes that the low-hanging fruits are taken already. So now it's only the difficult things left. But Norner is an R&D institute. Difficult, here we are. I mean, we like to work with the difficult things, and I think now some of the low-hanging fruit is taken, and we need to develop that. And several of our projects reflect this already, actually. But as a person, as a private person, it's reason to be a little bit optimistic, I would say. Some global trends, and some of them you have seen several times today already. I would like to just translate how that affect the plastics industry. Urbanization, there is no production of carrots, potatoes in a city. So the means to be produced, packed and transported, all of that is very much plastics oriented. I don't know how this part here is going to affect the industry, but I saw, for instance, some industries is more or less dead. If you think, for instance, in the old times it was travel agencies around. Do you see a travel agency somewhere anymore? It's gone. It's called internet. And I think many of the shops will end up being internet-based. And of course that has an impact also to how we sort of transport, how we deliver, how we pack things. Maybe you don't need display packaging anymore. Why should you display if you got it in the post? Then you have bought it already. So you could have everything gray. I don't think it will end up like that, but display packaging is very different when you do it from an internet branding. The aging population, it's very different. 65-year-old people or 70-year-old people now compared to when in 1940 or in 1950 or 60 or 70 even or 1980. No, these people are consumer, they are quality oriented, they know what they would like to have, and they are big consumers. And they are actually, in the past it was talking about what I call DINKs. DINKs is double income, no children. This kind of people is a little bit the trendsetters as well, because they are very quality oriented, these people. They know what they would like to have. So they set quite strict demands and requirements to us, what we are producing for them. This is the unlucky situation of the whale. The world cannot continue like this. I don't know what will happen, what will be the solution, but it cannot continue like that. Plastic bags is the food of whales. Of course, it has to change some way or another. I think Unilever, the big brand owners, has taken this one very seriously. If you look now at food, spreads, water, everything you buy basically are very healthy. It's good for something. So the trends, this is from the World Health Organization, has really been taken into the product development of the companies. For packaging plastics, what does it mean? It means that you use sometimes less antioxidants. Less antioxidant means that the preservation of food is less good. You need to have better packaging, barrier solutions. So it comes, then Fredrik again, he will struggle to avoid barrier solution because he also would like in his food to don't have preservatives. So it's a kind of a difficult balance sometimes. But we see that there is a trend towards less preservatives, meaning you have to more advanced packaging sometimes. What is the future market? Where are they? There is a consultancy report saying this is the GDP per capita. If you look at these figures and the growth will definitely be in China and definitely be in India. Meaning, for instance, Europe, which we love so much here in Europe, there is people outside Europe here as well, will be a miniature in the future. China, India will be the major markets, not because it grows so much in population anymore, because the population is under control in these countries, but because they have a really high growth in wealth. They will be much, much bigger consumers. The people will come in Africa. And if you look at China, China has, I would say, maybe it's wrong, but for me it seems like they have understood this. They are investing a lot in Africa. Norwegians, maybe many Europeans, are very afraid of Africa. Africa is full of strange leaders. It's a very sort of uncultivated country seen from far north, like in Norway. So we are very skeptical about doing business in Africa. China are not. They are investing heavily there. Is it this reason? Because that is the future markets. Nigeria, for instance, will be one of the biggest countries of the world in 20, 30 years. More than 250 million people will live in Nigeria in some years from now. So, where is the future market? It's in some countries in Asia and maybe Africa. I don't know. What is the raw material for plastics? We are used to this one. It's oil, maybe on land or maybe offshore. We have all heard about the sugar. We have heard about the algae. This is not a real picture. It's a kind of a, probably from an investment proposal. It looks like something which a kind of a dream for the future. At least it's algae production made up in Arizona. How about the forestry? The forestry industry in many countries struggle with low earnings. They would really, really love to have a better, let's say, market. Plastic raw material could be one interesting market for them. Could this be the future raw material for plastics? Waste. Like it's said already, maybe this is the, so we could just exclude all this. It's this one because it's circular. We say sometimes that coal is not important, but coal is very important as a plastic raw material. I will tell a little bit more about that in the future, but coal is a very important raw material for plastics as well. When you talk about raw material, you have to say something about shale gas, because I think it was from Zibur. They presented where the next projects, investments of polymer industry is. Did you saw Europe? Blank. It was none. If you saw North America, it was very, very many investments. And this is the reason, because the green area here is the light oil and shale gas, which is, they have found a very good technology for developing that one, even if it's costly. But because of the price reduction of oil and gas, over the last only 5 years, they claim they've been able to reduce the cost for production of shale gas even with 30%. I don't know where it ends, but this fracking technology has also developed. So this cost for the different fields in the US has gone down, and it's a reason to think that it goes further down. And it was very visible. I've never seen this figure before, which was shown earlier today, that it's so many projects in the US. I even heard that, for instance, Shell, which said that they have sold all their polyolefin activity into LyondellBasell. They consider to start up again because they have so much shale gas in this part of the world. And it's excellent raw material for the production of plastics. Some speculations, and this is my personal speculation, so maybe they're completely wrong, and there is many experts in this room. China is the main market. Its own production, very big investment, very big production, and they import from the Middle East. They invest heavily in methanol to olefins, and also very much actually in coal to olefin production, which you see also here. There is a statement on this one. The coal to olefin is start to be quite important in China, and I saw also that on the statistics shown earlier today, how important that is. How about US? US start probably to be and you started already, they grow their export, and maybe China will be their market. What will then happen to Middle East? Will they continue to have an easy market, or will the market for them disappear because of shale gas, because of their ambitions of China of being sort of independent from the Middle East? I don't know, it's speculations, but I think at least there is trend here. I don't know if you could call this a trend, but it seems like the export from the Middle East is at least not growing anymore. It seems to go in the opposite direction. Polystyrene, this was the polyolefin. If you look at the polystyrene struggle, to say it easily. I heard a very inspiring lecture. It was at this PACE conference as well, from Danone, one of the biggest producers of beverages. They do their utmost to try to get rid of polystyrene. And the reason for that is that polystyrene need to be from liquid, let's say, raw materials. Liquid raw materials is attractive to sell around the world. The attractive raw material is gas, for a price point of view. So they claim it has something to do with sustainability as well, recycling established loops, things like this, but it is basically about price, actually. Polystyrene is more costly than polyolefins, and from what they tell and what I've seen, there is no reason to think that will change. It will continue to be more expensive than the polyolefins. PET, everybody's favorite because it recycles. It can recycle to everything. The problem with polystyrene, to my experience, is its limited processability. I think if you talk to RPC, it's not easy to make a tin wall container out of PET from injection molding. Okay, it will come, they say, but let's see. The rheology of the the rheology of PET is very bad because it has no very low shear thinning behavior, meaning you cannot fill it into something thin, to say it simple. So that's why it is excellent for some processes, but it's very bad for many processes. So I think it's a success story. It's a very big success story. It will continue as a success story, but it will not kill all the others. What about bio-raw materials? I'm not an expert. There is people in this room which is more experts than this. But there has been initiatives from the European Union for bio-based fuels. Will these initiatives change or not also start to include materials? If it does, it will be a new sort of push for more green materials as well. So far, it has been a promotion more for the fuel side compared to the material, but that may change in the not too far future, actually. This has been discussed. It's first, second, third generation. I've called it a little bit differently. The easy ones. Sugar, starch, I mean, established processes, quite easy to make polymers from these two. There is plentiful of forest around. But have you seen the molecule of a cellulose or the molecule of lignin? Oh, and I'm not an organic chemist, but it looks really terrible. So this kind of molecule, to make something useful out of it, is not so easy. So I think there's been a dream for many years to try, for instance, to make lignin into something very good and an easy route to plastics. Well, so far I have not seen this easy route, but I think we will see important development which take forestry into plastics, but maybe not the easy route, but a more intelligent route, I think. So I think the intelligent people, the research development, will be able to win this and use these raw materials into a very good way. If that goes directly to break down and build up again, or if it goes through kind of advanced composites or something, there are several routes possible. Then there's the newcomers, which I have no idea if this will come up. If you look at the total volumes, sorry to say it, it's a lot of, if you read the literature, it seems like biopolymer is very, very big. But actually, unfortunately, I wouldn't say very, very small, but it's quite small. That can change, of course. No, they say that it will be more than 100% growth every year. I've seen 100% growth prediction every year since 1995 or something. So if this 100% should be valid all the time, we would have had something like this volume right now. So it's always been slower than what has been projected. That doesn't say that it will not start now, because I think there has been a lot of breakthrough development going on in this area. But at least it's a way to go on the volume side. It's important, and it's good material, some of them very good material even, but it's still a way to go to be dominant in the market. So a little bit about innovation. This is my favorite story of innovation. Can changes happen? When they started to look at film, they looked at it, of course, from film, from Kodak. Kodak was sort of a mastodont. It was really having all the number of patents, the number of everything they had was enormously. And they trusted their technology. Then the VHS was introduced, which was not killing it directly, but it started to be a little bit question mark then behind the film as such. Later on, it was created into DVD, and then Kodak started to have big problems. In those days, I worked with market introduction of polyolefins. In 1997, the sale of DVD was 0 because it was introduced in 98. Some few years later, it was 1.2 billion units. Enormous growth. The one producing the discs itself were coming from a completely different industry compared to the one which was producing the film or band. They had completely different start point. If you looked at Engel, I don't know about Engel, sorry, but at least know some of your competitors, you had a massive machine supply for discs. It was Disc Jet or whatever they were called, several of them, which was able to produce compact discs and DVDs in enormous speed. I don't think they promote them anymore. And the reason, of course, streaming is what's going on now. You don't sell anything of DVDs anymore. Will maybe the last DVD be sold in 2019? So the full industry. Remember, this one was a very attractive industry for us when I was working with marketing. Oh, I was counting numbers, how many tons a year. I need to go there, there, and there and sell and make transparent product and things like this. Display the Men in Black or whatever it was in a good way. Nothing anymore. Dead. So, for me, this is changes can happen. Will happen. I will give some example. Now you can say if it will happen later on. This is also, when this Nespresso and these things was coming some years ago, people think it was just a stupid, costly way of selling coffee. I would guess that half of the people in the room have a machine, not necessarily the Tassimo, but this machine in their home, in their cottage, something like that. So no, it's okay in one way. And it's a very technical product. This Tassimo is a very technical product. It has a capsule, it has a filter, it has a digital reader. It tells the machine how much water, how much temperature, how much whatever, and then you brew the perfect coffee. This is protected in a barrier packaging, so it's a high-tech product, and it's a very big success. Only of this brand, more 2 billion units is sold in Europe. I've been to one of the plants which is producing this stuff. If you want to be impressed by production speed, you go there. Every single one of them is photographed in 3 different ways with an X-ray, for instance, to see if there is something wrong with it inside. So it's incredibly impressive production. Now the speculation starts, and now you can tell me if this will happen. I don't know. This is the current delivery of normal cars. This is a Golf, this is a Porsche Panamera. This is a Tesla. It has performance, it's fully electric. It has performance better than the Porsche Panamera, I think. I think the people from Porsche will probably disagree, but it's an incredible car. This is fully electric cars, and the fully electric cars development is incredibly fast. Statement from Volkswagen is that, well, maybe they need to rethink their strategies. Electric cars doesn't really need a gearbox. It doesn't really need a clutch. It doesn't really need an engine in the normal way. Now I'm a little bit provocative. Remember that most cars are very proud of their engines. So Volkswagen have their engine, Fiat had their engine. Fiat were able to take over, was it 60% of General Motors because they have very good small engines. They did an exchange on this, and they took over 60% of General Motors. So cars is very much about engines. It doesn't really need an engine, the electric cars. Who is the good ones to make engines which is electric? Well, that is ABB. So in 10 years from now, you will all drive in a car which is named ABB. Or Siemens. Well, everybody said that Musk and his Tesla, well, fun for California. Well, it's you can go out in the streets here, there is very many of them. In Amsterdam, if you go to Amsterdam, I think every second taxi is a car from this guy. So maybe 10 years from now, your car will be branded ABB. And Volkswagen was part of the Kodak story. It was fun for some years, but Volkswagen is gone. Well, everybody said the same thing about Kodak. Of course, Kodak, they will be there forever. I don't say this is true, but I mean, if you think changes can happen, it could be the consequence. Norway was impressively, we moved the biggest man-made construction ever, and now everything is subsea, small, nice, well, not so small, but quite small, units on the seabed, which is producing much more flexible compared to this one. And of course, it doesn't need the storm, it doesn't need to take care of the ice, for instance, because it's under the seabed. I like this as well. Autonomous cars. No accidents. No human error, so no accidents anymore. And with an app, you just push in and the car is coming to your door and it takes you to the next door. So you don't need a car. You just register on the app. That means there is speculations. I've seen several literature saying that probably the sale of car will go down with 40%. Will the automotive industry then be an interesting market for the polyolefin producers? No. If you have a market which is declining with 40%, what's the fun? So that means it will be enormous reduction, could be an enormous reduction. Again, remember the Kodak story? You will say, this cannot happen. I don't know. I'm careful saying this cannot happen anymore, because it could happen. And that means that people in this room, which is dealing in the plastic industry, need to think differently. The last slide, I'm finished soon. Industry 4.0. We have heard some very nice story about similar from Engel today. I'm too old for this, I realize. I'm too old for this, because I'm not able to really imagine what it means. Some is easy. Connect and communicate, at least connect. You connect to your machine, and you can see what's going on. Easy. But communicate that the machine, the washing machine at home, tell you, well, your clothes need to be washed another 10 minutes or whatever it tells you. This kind of, it's far away from my thinking. The example today was a little bit like your computer. Everybody have a kind of a help desk, or you are used to that. They take over your computer and they control or fix it, what is ever going on there. What about if the refrigerator is like that? The refrigerator tell you, or say that, well, some of your milk is over the due date. You need to cook with this specific food now, because otherwise it will be dead by 2 days from now. Internet of Things is a bit like this in one way. It communicate, connect. Transparency is also a little bit linked to it. I mean, it means like you have a virtual plant in your computer and you can do remotely like full picture of what is the customer is doing, because you have the same kind of plant, same time operation virtually at your computer. So quite interesting what you then can do from remote distance. Technical assistance we have heard a lot about. It's happening all the time. And this one is, for me, the most difficult one to understand. That now it's a little bit into what to call this science fiction, that the machine itself decide what to do. And sorry, I like to understand, I like to decide what the machine should do. They should not decide what to do. It's very difficult to understand this, but it happens. It happens. And I don't know which speed it happens, and it happens to new things all the time. It happens in the industry, but it happens at home as well. Everybody's used to the computer, which is sort of... When I wake up sometimes in the morning, you turn on the computer, or you should look at the computer, but during the night it's shut down. It's turned down, and when you turn it on again, important updates are done, it says to me. I've never asked about some important updates. It has just made a decision for itself. It should do important updates. I hope my fridge is not doing that as well. Well, important updates is done in your fridge or in whatever kind of things you have at home. Well, in the future, I think it may happen. These also have impact directly to quality control, process information, traceability, which is in the same way linked to the full story. And only the imagination can say what this will end up in the future. And I'm too gray-haired to really understand where it ends up. You have to be 20 years younger than me to think this is natural. To me, it's not fully natural. I accept it, but it's not fully natural. Conclusion. The plastics industry is very large. It will stay large, but they need to do the things in a very good way. Let's face it, there is a sustainability image on plastics. We cannot find these dead whales all the time. There need to be done something, and I don't know how, but it need to be find solutions to this. The shale gas revolution has completely turned things upside down. So, I mean, we are living in one of the most oily countries of Europe, and the production of polyolefins over here is gone by shale gas from the US. So we have people from Ineos here, and I mean, they don't even like the gas from Norway. They buy shale gas from the US to lower price. It's really strange how this has changed the situation. These demographics, remember, market in the future, China, India, not because population growth, they have good control of that, but because of their welfare growth. And what happens in Africa, I have no idea. Changes can happen. So, will the next car be named ABB? I don't know. Kodak is dead, ABB is in, I don't know. Thank you.